If you want news and rumors that appeal, welcome to the Dusty Wheel.
Hey, welcome back to the Dusty Wheel.
If you want news and rumors that appeal, welcome to the Dusty Wheel.
Hey, welcome back to the Dusty Wheel.
Hey, welcome back to the Dusty Wheel. I'm your host, the Innkeeper, and this is our live call and talk show all about the Wheel of Time. And we're back for episode 3 of Lanfear Week. We've been talking about this week for at least the last year and a half, 2 years. And it's finally here, and we're about halfway through. But that being said, just as a reminder, that's right, we still have some episodes to go. Tomorrow, Wednesday, our typical night, we are talking Natasha O'Keefe and becoming Lanfear. We'll be talking all about her career, their previous works, and whether or not we think she has demonstrated kind of the acting chops. Not that it matters at this point, because she is Lanfear, whether or not she becomes Lanfear at this point. So we're going to do that. And then for the final episode, we're going to talk masks. Yep. Like we talked about yesterday and the day before, Robert Jordan called Lanfear a drama queen. And it'll be fun to go through the different masks she wore and talk about why she used all those theatrics. What was her plan? You know, why is this the methodology as compared to other Forsaken out there? So that'll be a fun ending episode to Lanfear Week. But that is not what we're doing tonight. We're talking theories and Lanfear. Honestly, my 2 favorite topics of this entire series. And to do that with me, I have 2 guests, and one of them is new here at the Dusty Wheel. Welcome to the Dusty Wheel, Mary and Billy. How you both doing?
Hey, guys.
Doing good.
Billy, what did you say?
Theories.
Theories, yes. That's right, everybody. I had to wear, let's see, there we go. I had to wear my Theoryland shirt. We're in good Theoryland territory with 2 people who've been around online fandom for a while. Billy, when was the first time you jumped online and started looking up the Wheel of Time?
Oh my goodness. Probably through AOL in probably 1995 or so to read the records.sf.written.robertjordan news group
Oh,
posts.
yes. Wow. 95. So you beat me by...
I'm a named contributor in the WhatFac. So
Are you really?
Yeah,
I don't think I realized, man. That's awesome.
I have seen many horrible ideas floated about Lanfear in my years.
Well, we'll see if we captured enough of them. You both should feel free if you're like, hey, we didn't talk about this one. We might not have time to talk about the ones you don't feel like are covered by these 12. Yes, everyone, we're going to be talking about 12 theories about Lanfear from the last 30 years. Some of these I know really, really well. Because a couple of them I came up with. Or Billy will tell me, no. Back in 1995, someone else was.
No, I'm pretty sure a lot of these came from your unique level of insight, man.
Thank you for putting it that way. The call lines will be open, but it'll be, let's say, really just, we'll try to pull people in if we have time, but we have a lot of theories to get through. This is how it's going to work, everyone. We hope you stick around. because we're going to pick the best Lanfear theory from the last 3 decades. That's right. You, however many of you are currently watching and going to vote tonight, you get to do it. You get to pick it, and this will forever be known as the best Lanfear theory at the end of this. So we need you to vote throughout the night. We're going to take about 5 minutes and talk about each of these theories as we go. Discuss what we like, what we didn't like about them. They might have been wrong. They might have turned out right. That's not the relevant part. We're going to bring them up and talk about if we liked the theory itself, what the basis of it was. Feel free to kind of participate in chat. Add to it if you know something that we're forgetting about it. We're old people, and it's likely that we've forgotten some of this information over the years.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say,
Dude.
look, I mean, everyone knows that, like, I have not reread the series in a very long time, but I'm a specialist, and Lanfear is one of my specialties. So for the topic tonight, that works out. So I think we got to kick this off with what is one of the most discussed theories about Lanfear from the last 3 decades. This one, not the most beautiful, the artificially enhanced theory. Can you describe briefly, Billy, why did fans wonder if Lanfear that her beauty had been artificially enhanced in some way? Why was that a thing?
I can't remember the exact trigger that made people think this. I think there was sort of this question of, like, really, is she really not only the hottest person, but she's also the strongest, and she's everything in the world except Ilyena? Like, is that really?
By the way, I think that's the exact wording in the Watt fact. Did you write that one?
No, I didn't write it, but it's definitely one of those things where it's like, this lady's perfect, except that she's a psychotic narcissist and determined to rule the world. What's not to love? She
You say that as if it's a bad thing.
In the right hands, it's a great thing. But and those hands should be Matt's. But
thank you.
But the general idea here, if my memory is correct, is that she either had a tel'aran'rhiod or she got she went to Finland and got augmented in some way.
That is definitely some of the people that believed that there was an artificial enhancement of some sort. You're right. I think those are, like, maybe she went to the Finns, maybe she has a tel'aran'rhiod, maybe there's some kind of, she figured out some second age glamour. I don't know.
Right.
Whatever you call it.
Or she has permanently cast a glamour upon herself. That's the other.
I mean, maybe there's some bio, like you think of Agenor back in the Second Age. Maybe she went to some, black market. She had some work done. It's not, I mean, considering with the choristries from back in the day in the Second Age, the idea that there was something kind of metaphysical about this would not be a surprise. Now, this one I wanted to start with first because Robert Jordan actually supports this in his notes. So we have
No way. Are you serious?
I'm absolutely serious. He does. So we have to talk about this one. So here we go. I'm going to read you. I'm going to show up on the screen. Because I went back and I was like, does he actually? And he does say this. Now, I think it supports it. You'll have to go along with this and tell me. This is from Box 45. These are continuity notes from The Great Hunt. As I've told everyone so far this week, this doesn't mean this was canon to him by the end of the series. This is stuff he wrote around The Great Hunt. So there's stuff he wrote around The Great Hunt that didn't turn out to be the way he chose for things to be. That being said, I think this falls in line with what we experience in the book. So this is a note. This is under a discussion of Pat and Fane, actually, but it's talking about when Selene and Rand meet in the mirror world. So it says, he's writing this, Rob Jordan's notes, she is the most beautiful, the most perfect woman he has ever seen, and it is not only clear that Huron is affected in much the same way, though with some differences, but even Loial seems somehow enthralled by her. Loial sees her almost as an elder, incredibly wise and knowledgeable. Huron acts as if he sees himself as the old trusted family retainer of the most beautiful, wisest queen in the world. Rand sees her as a beautiful and desirable beyond any woman on earth. It is hard for him to think of any other woman, even Egwene, when she is with him. He frets when she is with one of the others, impatient for her return, and he is surprised that he actually feels jealous of the attention she gives Loial and Huron. And though it is not nearly so much as she gives him, he is both surprised at his jealousy and at the same time takes it as a matter of course, as if he were two people, and this troubles him, though he cannot really think about it much when she is around. Okay, so the way I read this is he's describing how they all see her, and they all see her in very different ways. Now you're like, okay, maybe that's just how other people see her differently. But there's a little add-on here right after that in his notes that says, this effect is more or less permanent, ? So long as she is with them, ? Does it seem to wear off after she departs? For Loyal and Huron, but Rand seems to feel it less when she is not actually concentrating her attention on him. So when he calls this effect, I don't know, Mary, do you, reading this and reading the way Robert Jordan's explaining it in this moment, when he says this effect is more or less permanent, but he's still kind of questioning what he's doing with it and how it acts, do you think that this is an explanation of something metaphysical? Or do you think Robert Jordan's just explaining something here that's just like, oh yeah, it's just the effect that a beautiful woman has on other people?
I'm sorry, if you're truly impacted by a beautiful woman, absence makes the heart go fonder, not forgetful. So
that's okay. Yeah.
So I'm thinking,
yeah.
I'm
Right.
thinking that what did you say, Billy? She had some work done, or she has some kind of power augment, whether it's a tel'aran'rhiod or I like to think that she visited the Alphen and Eelfen, or like you said, went to Aginor. She was a scientist in her own right and a researcher in her own right. There's a lot of different avenues that she could have used to gain this glamour, for lack of a better term, and use it to achieve her goals. Her goal is always power. So manipulating people helps get her to that power. The other part that makes me think it is from an outside source. It has to enhance something. Multiply anything. If you multiply something by 0, it's still 0. So she has to be smoking hot to begin with. Two things. One is the quote that you just said. Loyal sees her as an elder. So that's something that is in his culture beautiful, somebody who is knowledgeable and wise. Yep. Huron sees himself as a trusted retainer to a queen, and that's how he views himself in his societal structure. Is he is the loyal soldier, the loyal servant to the rightful lords, and Rand is just he's 18 and horny, so more power to him. But also Rand at this point is also coming into his own. Are we at full spoilers, by the way? Yes, we are.
Oh, yes. Okay. I should just remind everybody, full book spoilers. You saw it up on the screen. It's been this way for Lanfear Week. So, yeah, just a reminder, everybody. This goes through the entire series. We're going to be spoiling things, secrets that were revealed. We're going to be getting all the way to those, too. So,
right.
Yeah.
And then,
go ahead.
Good.
Yeah.
And then, so Rand, and then Rand's coming into his power. We know that talent and power and using the power can help dull the effects of those types of things. And then the last piece of evidence is there is a tel'aran'rhiod in story that causes immense awe and servitude, and that's the Crystal Throne. So there's already something in the books that does that. So.
I feel like Lanfear has compelled you to believe this. So that's.
I'm Team Semirog, so
okay.
Game recognizes game.
I'm going to add one more to this, and then I'll ask you, Billy, and we'll then have everyone vote on this. This is from another file, from an individual Ogier file, page 5 in box 61, folder 6 from Robert Jordan's notes. Loyal has met, and there's a list of people he's met. This one's Lanfear, as Selene in the world of the Portal Stone and on way to Termosian. Has no idea Selene was Lanfear, though she was exceedingly beautiful, which he accounts odd when and if he thinks of it, since he never really thought of any human woman as being beautiful, only small, over-agitated, and though it would be embarrassing to admit, such a crude thought, with pitiful ears.
Nice.
Okay, so last thought, Billy. Does this support the idea, the theory that there's been an artificial enhancement of some sort?
I think number one, Loyal is exactly right when if he thinks that Lanfear is over agitated. That's a really insightful view. But I think, can you pull up, Matt? Can you pull up that first box, that first thing you pulled from the box?
Yep. This one.
Yes. So if I look at that quote and I swap out the words Rand and Lanfear and I replace them with Morgaze and Ravin, it still flows almost exactly the same. And
compulsion.
I think there's a really powerful argument here that Jordan, at least at the time he was writing The Great Hunt, was holding it open that Lanfear was using some form of compulsion when she was doing this.
Yeah.
And whether he later locked it in as to whether or not she's just inherently super hot and everybody agrees on this, or it just so happens that everybody who has this opinion has been within the effective range of this effect? I think that's a pretty strong. There's pretty strong evidence there that she is in fact using compulsion.
Yep,
and she's just being more subtle about it than Robin does.
I would agree with that. Though I do like my fellow innkeepers' idea, compulsion bubble, because it does seem like Jordan's kind of giving it like a range of some sort, and it's like an effect versus like in a directly focused on an additional person. So
yeah, I agree with that. I think that feels very that feels in line with how Jordan was thinking about the one power in the early days.
I absolutely agree. Let me end this poll, by the way. This is my first one, everyone. I know it took us a little bit maybe longer to get there. Almost 100 of you voted on, will the best Lanfear theory of the last 30 years be one Innkeeper Hatch originated? I'm not going to tell you all the ones that I originated in this group, so you won't know that because that would be unfair. You will notice one or two that maybe you recognize from the thousands of times I've mentioned them on the show, but 70% of you believe that, or 69% of you, there you go, believe that it will be.
Nice.
Yeah, right? I didn't even, that was the audience. That wasn't even me. So we'll call this the artificial enhancement theory, the best Lanfear theory of the last 30 plus years.
I have a problem with that poll because I think it's also true that Innkeeper hatches originated 69% of all Lanfear theories.
Nice.
I don't know. Well, I don't know. I don't know.
Studies show.
I don't know. I don't know if I can take it that far.
Well, some of them may have been Manfears, so we just clump them together.
I love it. So yeah, this is, let me see this one. Hold on a second. Okay, so yes, that's a good one. I'm going to bring that one up. Well, I'll bring this up now. My fellow innkeeper threw this quote also. It's from the Wheel of Time Companion, page 190. Her body truly was young, mid-20s at the oldest, not needing the Mask of Mirrors Lanfear had used to hide her matured ripeness. I'm assuming that is about... Who was that one about? Her body, the not needing the Mask of Mirrors. I can't remember who that one... Oh, Celine. Sorry. Yes.
Right.
That was the comment about Celine.
To make yourself look younger.
Yes. Well, I mean, the Mask of Mirrors, again, she was doing something with that, but I love the compulsion bubble. So we're throwing this one out. We're going to move on from here to get through all 12 of these theories. Basically, we're going to use the yes percentage, and at the very end, take the top 3 yes percentages on these polls. So your votes matter. Please do vote. If you're out there watching this, you don't normally jump into chat. It's fine. Jump into chat anyways. Help us figure out the best theory that we've had for Lanfear over the last 30 years, if you will. So let's move on. That one, I had to cover that one first because there's so many quotes from Jordan's stuff. Everyone asked that question, and that's just perfect. Okay. Here is a theory, number 2. Lanfear killed Asmodean. The she said she would theory. So the background of this theory is obviously at the time we didn't know who had killed Asmodean. And so basically, I think every suspect was floated over the years. Like Pat Fane until Robert Jordan got rid of Pat Fane as a suspect in 2005. But basically every Samael was one of them. Every single person that potentially could have was floated. Lanfear was one of the ones who brought up, like, part of my plan is Asmodean will teach you enough, get you up to snuff, and then I'll kill him. And then we will rule the world together. So this theory came about because Lanfear said that she planned on killing Asmodean. And then the other side of this is, but she went through the doorway, right? And so you had to do a lot of twisting and turning to get her back somehow. And I think that the main point of this one was that the Finns gave her like a wish to kill him, but didn't let her go. Basically, they opened a portal, he was killed, and whether or not she killed him directly or she killed him by wish and somebody else did through that wish, that she was the one that killed him. Mary, thoughts on this theory? Lanfear killed Asmodean. Did you like this one back in the day or not?
I honestly don't remember which theory I liked back in the day other than I was a proponent of I don't care who killed Asmodean. I was very much, can't we
Yes.
argue about something else, please?
Yes, you were definitely. I think I remember you were on the couch faction. There was a
Yes,
faction that
yes,
we
there
created
was
in
a-
Theoryland of people
Yeah.
that were just tired of this theory and never wanted to discuss it again. And they jumped on the couch and let everyone else.
Yeah, we're just like, we'll just kick back and watch. Oops, am I muted?
No,
No,
you're
you're
good.
good.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we're just gonna kick back and watch, and we don't care. We're tired. We want to move on to the next thing. Yeah, the part of me that made me not believe it is I don't think she would waste a wish on killing Asmodean. I mean, she is petty.
Because she's not petty and vengeful.
She is
and,
absolutely petty and
she didn't just
revengeful.
rip Kadir's body and
But-
skin him and take out all of her
No.
hate on everyone else and didn't blame
Right.
Asmodean. I mean, no.
Yeah, she absolutely lost her shit. And I'm sorry, I got the first swear word in. I'm sorry, Willa Cussin.
You beat me to it. This is killing me here.
Yes, it seems like a pretty big waste of a wish. Yeah, Billy,
Right.
I seem to remember Billy who was your favorite? Was Grendel was your favorite?
Okay, so I had the opposite experience as Mary. So I read this book. What was it? 1993. Fires of Heaven came out.
Yes.
Yeah,
think so.
so Fires of
Yeah.
Heaven was the first book we ever had to wait for in my friend group. And so we closed the book and we all looked at each other and we said, oh my God, it was obviously X. And like 7 different names came out. Of course, the loudest one of my friend group at the time, because we were all, 13-year-old, dudes reading this stuff, is it was Lanfear. I'm like, no, there's no way it was Lanfear. This is the stupidest thing. How could you possibly think it's Lanfear? Like she's off in Gandalf Deadland, right, along with Moraine. Like she's passed it to the west. I don't know where she is, but she's not in the killing Asmodean game. And I never wavered from this in the next 17 years until we found out what it was.
Yes,
and I never ever was I was Lanfear's defense lawyer through all of this, and but I never had anybody to pin it on until I think it was probably Crown of Swords or Path of Daggers when I was like, it's Grendel. Like, stop this. It's Grendel. And I never wavered from Grendel for years and years and years. And then finally, when we got the reveal and Brandon just sort of slipped it in there from Grendel's perspective, I was like, yes, this is it. I was right. I was right that time. So
Yeah.
unlike Mary, I was very, very invested in this for decades.
I was definitely not. Okay, so yeah, that was the first thing I said to Brandon when I met him at like the first Jordan Con or the second
You
Jordan Con.
walked up and said, I don't care who killed Asmodean.
No, I walked
come in
it.
peace.
I walked up to him and said, "Who killed Asmodean?" And he was like, "Who is this dude?"
True
and
story.
then I took like the next 30 minutes to find ways to work that. I, in some form or fashion, take some credit for Brandon and Team Jordan deciding, let's just put it in the book so people stop talking about it.
yeah. That was probably.
I feel like I have
For that, I'll thank
some.
you.
Yeah, I feel like I have some. I take some credit for that. Okay, we're gonna end this theory poll that's out there right now. About 84 of you have voted on this. Is the artificial enhancement theory the best Lanfear theory of the last 30 years? Funny that this flipped the other way. 69% of you said no.
Nice.
So is
No,
everyone going to
okay.
be 69% in some way or another tonight? We'll find out. So only 30% of you said yes on that one. So let me mark that down. We need to. That's actually. I'm really actually very surprised. I thought that one might actually be one of the top ones of the night. We'll see. Maybe everyone will hate all of them. They'll get to the end of like 12 and be like, none of these qualify. So let me now ask, is Lanfear killed Asmodean?
Yeah,
Theory
I
of the
mainly
best theory.
didn't believe it, Billy, because my main theory was that both Lanfear and Moraine were dead. So if she was alive to kill Asmodean, it would have crushed that theory. So
By the way, I thought that was the lamest. When people said like she went into a parallel world and died immediately, I never understood that. It was like the doorway, the portal, the portal between worlds. I was like, these two people went through alive. They're just in a parallel world. It pissed me off what Jordan did with Lan's connection. Still don't like how, because I think the last thing that he said, or the last thing that people say that he said about this was that it was like the doorway, snapped the connection or something. I don't know. Like I hated that theory.
He made it up.
Like
He made
I was
it
like,
up.
you can gate into, or you can go to you can use a portal stone or sorry, you could technically, but you could go to a parallel world, and your warder can be back in the real world, and that should not affect that. Anyways, I always disliked that one.
I never thought it made any sense.
That one I was like,
never
why
made
does
sense to
everyone
me.
assume the death? I didn't.
Now
I
we're
didn't get
talking about Matt's other great love, metaphysics.
it. Yes, sorry, that is number 3. That's number 3. You're right.
Yeah, it's true.
Okay, so the third theory from the last 30 years, this one is a fun one. It kind of touches on the artificial enhancement, but Mary, I'll have you talk about this one. This is Mirren visited the Finns, or the Mariana Jones before the Boar theory. So can you explain this to the audience, Mary?
Yeah, so back in the Age of Legends, Mirren Aranel was a famed scientist and researcher, and was all about the power. Her driving ambition was not to rule the world, not to destroy the world, not to have eternity, to make the sickest jams, or to be a hedonist, or any of the other things that the chosen were into. She was all about power, and I think that like Semirog was endemic to her personality before she swore over to the shadow. And as a researcher, she went in esoteric directions, and she was looking for ways to overcome the limitations of the one power. And, that's probably heretical back in those times. So, scruples are for chumps. So I'm thinking that she found access to the Aelfin and Eelfin, whether it was the Redstone Doorways or the Tower of Genji, or other means to get to their dimension and get her questions asked, to get her wishes. And that was even before the Boar was drilled. And it may have helped her future research that put her down that path. But I think that she had all of the tools and the means to get to that source of knowledge to further her power.
So this comes back to, and this is one of the things with like Mordeth, of when he started looking into the things of the shadow and what did he find. And I think Jordan or Sanderson said that he definitely visited the Finns. The Finns had been visited before, and this is not the first time. Mirren visited them at some point, potentially explaining other things that happen to her later on, or what she becomes or doesn't, power or beauty enhancements, whatever they are. Do you, Billy, what's your thought on this one? Mirren visited the Finns. Do you like this idea that she, regardless of what she got from them, that she visited them looking maybe even for power?
So she definitely would. If she had access to the doors, she definitely would have gone through them. She's not the kind of person who would send in a minion and trust their word. She would go in and do it. The real question is, to me, if she went, what did she get out of it? And that, for me, has always been the hole in the theory that she went through the doors. Because it was like, okay, well, if she went through the doors during the War of the Shadow, that seems super bad. That seems very problematic for how that went. And it seems instead that if she would have had access to the doors, it would have been before the War of the Shadow. And so we don't have that sort of, I'll say, on the other side of the singularity of anything we have knowledge for. And so for us, in order for us to, and there's no way she would have gone through the door and not gotten something to show for it. Well, this takes us back to our first theory, which is maybe she got some enhancements. But without being able to sort of point to anything that she got for having gone through, right now I sort of come down on the side of she would have, but we don't have evidence that she did. And so I think it's a cool theory, but I don't buy it.
Yeah.
Keep in mind that the Boar was drilled a good century before the War of the Shadows started. So there was the decline and the collapse.
Right.
So there was a lot of time in there.
So I should restate. I should say, I don't think that it makes much sense for her to. It definitely doesn't make any sense for her to have gone through once the War of the Shadows started. And my bet is that after the Boar was opened, she didn't have much access to things like this.
Well, the opening of the Boar did destroy the, but it wasn't the Kolan Dam. But it did.
Sharam.
It was the Sharam, right?
Yeah.
But so you could make the argument that she got the information that led her towards sensing the true power and then seeking it out. But there's no evidence for that. It's just speculation.
Yeah,
there's part of me that actually thinks that it diminishes Lanfear as a character if she got bootstrapped by the Finn. Right? It's like, no, she's brilliant. She's brilliant. She's awesome. She's more interesting as a character if she was able to, through her science and guile and working with, was it Baedomin, to figure this out on the other side, doing the physics and the metaphysics, is more interesting. She's more interesting to me and a more powerful and a more tragic character to me if she did all of that through her own cunning and not having been bootstrapped by the Finns. I think that. But
she was bootstrapped by somebody and something. You know what I mean? Like we've taken from Jordan's idea that there's an effect going on here, and so maybe take away what the research side of it. Getting something from the Finns doesn't necessarily take away everything, because she obviously has some kind of glamour moment, and she doesn't have to necessarily use a redstone door. Well, she could have technically gone through there's other ways to have gotten there.
True, that's true. And
so, because I know a lot of people are like, well, how could she go through again? Like, what is that? Because some people did speculate back in the day that it was she went through the doorway, but she was holding on to somebody else, so they went through, but the doorway burned down.
They took the hit
because she had been before. Like, she had gone before, and you're not supposed to be able to go through again, and so that was like some kind of breakdown. But I don't think that was ever substantiated. But I agree with you here. Like, this one's definitely, as we would say, out in left field, because we don't have anything other than we have the idea that there's an effect, and we know that the Finns have access to tel'aran'rhiod. I think Sanderson talked about it, a lot of tel'aran'rhiod. So if this was a tel'aran'rhiod creating the effect coming from the Finns, but it's also the Age of Legends, so they were capable of creating their own kind of thing. So, okay, you've all heard kind of the case that Mary and Billy made on this one. I'm going to end this last vote. About 85 of you have voted, is the Lanfear killed Asmodean theory the best Lanfear theory of the last 30 years? I don't think this one's going to make the final poll, everybody. It only got 13% said yes.
Hooray!
Let me just remind everyone in chat. You're not voting for the singular one today. If you vote you're voting yes on a theory you want to make to the finals. We're not going back and voting all 12 against each other. We're going to vote the top 4. So if you feel like, no, this one does belong in the end, vote yes. If you definitely don't want it to be at the end, vote no. But vote on each one of these. Don't hold back from voting. Otherwise, things that will show up at the end that maybe you don't want to be there. So let me mark this one down. And so Lanfear killed Asmodean, only got 13%. Doubtful that's going to make it. And so let's put this one, we'll call this the Mariana Jones. That's right. Look, I had to have fun today while I was doing these, and that made me laugh. So
the tel'aran'rhiod of destiny, right?
The before the Boar theory. Is the Mariana Jones before the Boar theory the best Lanfear theory of the last 30 plus years? Yes or no, everyone? Mary, thank you very much for that. So this next one, I found this in our Theoryland backlog of theories, if you will, just archives. And this is an interesting one. Again, full book spoilers. We'll talk about why I'm saying that. But this came up before we knew what we knew from A Memory of Light. But Moradin killed Lanfear, the she's way too subservient theory. And the way this theory went was she actually is demonstrating later on, not early on in the books, right? She kind of snubs Ishamael and kind of barely listens to him and doesn't care what he has to say. But when she comes back as Sindane, that's definitely a different relationship. Yes, there's a mind trap involved, but the idea here was that the belief was that Lanfear had died, and the way that she came back and who she was held by and how she treated him led this theorist to believe that Moradin had killed Lanfear, and ended up technically being right about that. That Moradin did kill Lanfear in the end. Not the way that he had written, because the way that the theory was not elaborate. It was just like, I think this makes the most sense. But did pick out kind of how that ended up turning out, again, overall from a theory standpoint. Billy, you look suspect of this theory or not. What's your thoughts here? Go for it.
I actually liked it.
Okay. Okay.
I liked it at the time, and I still like it now. I think that I'm not sure that I don't buy the fact that that's the reason why we'll say Lanfear is better behaved than she was.
Sure.
That's 100% up to the mind trap. That's the mind trap.
Yeah.
Not because she attributes any sort of we'll say moral high ground to Morden on this, but it made complete sense to me that Morden would impose some punishment on somebody who's been quite wayward all this time, and particularly since he's now nameless. And I'm all in on this one.
Yeah, Morden killed Lanfear ahead of time. I'm trying to remember. I actually know I can find out exactly what I was thinking about this one. Mary, you go ahead and respond, and I'm going to go look this one up because I did respond to this one when it was written. So, what were your thoughts? Do you remember this theory at the time? And how did you feel about it?
I do remember it vaguely, and it came out about the same time as Winter's Heart, if I remember right. So, what would that be?
Yeah, it seems like that's right.
2003, 2004, something like that.
Yeah.
It just seemed like an extra step. It's just death with an extra step, which I guess is Morden. So I mean, it again, like I guess what you said, Billy. It's plausible. At the time, it was plausible. It just seemed overly complex. But then it turned out to be kind of true. So it's kind of on brand for both Jordan and Morden. It is overly complex. It's pretty cool. It's also not the complete story. So it ticks all those boxes. So
yeah, it was again, the theory was not well reasoned beyond just this makes the most sense, which often turns out to be correct. This was my response. Not surprised that I think my response was actually half as long as the theory. This had a lot to do with the idea of why the assumption that she's died. Can the Finn can't what can the Finns actually do with a body? And now that we know the answer, I was like, oh yeah, that's that I was wrong about some ideas that I had here. But yes, that ends up being why does it have to be Morden that did it? And it didn't have to be Morden that did it. It could have been a variety. She still would have been transmigrated, and she still would have ended up in a mind trap. But
I'm amused by Mary's statement because Mary's statement that this is too complicated, because that was my argument the whole time against Lanfear is in order to get Lanfear to the scene of the crime, you have to go through some convoluted speculation to get her there.
What?
But at the same time, it was 100% on the Morden killed Lanfear theory, because while you have to go through some convoluted speculation to get him there,
you've got to go through a lot. I think
you kind of have to go through a little bit. It's a very elegant way to get Lanfear's soul out of the tower, right? To get Lanfear's soul out of Finland. It's we just kill her and return her to the jurisdiction of the Lord of the Grave, right? It's okay, great, let's do it. And that always made complete sense to me.
And then the Finn get a new pair of boots. It's awesome.
That's right.
They're going to be the sexiest boots in the history of boots.
That's right. They get something to play with, and they can go accessorize with the hottest woman of all time, or the second hottest woman of all time, and you also get a little bit of reinforcement here of the fact that the Dark One is the Lord of the Grave, which always can use some reinforcement, in my opinion.
By the way, this question came up. I still don't understand from Christian why Lanfear came back weaker. Didn't RJ say something? People who came back burned out would be full powered when they. So this is a totally different situation. We find out because the Finns have kind of taken some of her potential channeling capability away, and then she was transmigrated, not reborn. Technically, Christian, you're right. When Lanfear is reborn in the future, the idea would be that she would come back and she would not have this kind of artificial limit that the Finns have put on her by taking that from her. So,
yeah, I think we have words of Jordan that says the wheel resets you, but the Dark One does not.
That's right. The transmigration doesn't. And then you take into account what we learn about the Finns and what happened to Moraine and what happened to Lanfear. And the Finns were responsible for diminishing her power from what it was, but still she was very strong. And that is like one of the arguments people come back and they're like, why was Moraine so diminished but Lanfear wasn't? And there's kind of back and forth, like they took their time with Lanfear or whatever. They went too quick. The Finns went too quick with Moraine or something.
It's because she still has to be a credible villain. That's why.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Is Mariana Jones before the Boar theory the best Lanfear theory of the last 30 years? Oh, wow. So shocking. 49% said yes on this over beauty enhancement. I'm still shocked on that one. So 48%. I'm going to go mark that. This is the this is the closest we have to actually seeing one in the finals here. So I'm trying to see if I wrote this down. Anyone? Mariana Jones got 48%. Was that the one? Okay. Let me start the new poll here. I think we've kind of talked this one over. And what was our last theory was Moradin
killed Lanfear.
At the time, and it turned out to be correct, but at the time we did not know. And I obviously did not like that one as much at the time. Is the Moradin killed Lanfear theory the best Lanfear theory of the last 30 plus years? Thank you everyone that's with us. You could be other places on this July 4th, so we appreciate you hanging out and appreciate everyone voting. The more votes the better, because then I have potential to make that Final Four. So next up, okay, so I this one I actually like this one. So Lanfear was Sylvie. Obvious to the casual observer theory. Billy, do you remember this theory? And
wait, this is a theory?
It was never
remember.
I thought this was a fact.
Well, it never was actually, like, Jordan never said yes. Is it a fact? I mean, all of the data points point to it being absolutely true, but it's never been like Sanderson.
It was never confirmed.
And by the way,
I remember for years this was in the Watt Fact, and I think technically if you go to the last version of the Watt Fact, which is like 2004 Knife of Dreams, this is still a question in there. Yeah. And the whole time I was sitting there like, obviously she's still like, this is not even a question. This is obvious to the most casual observer. And miss me with this. This is a terrible theory because it's like asking me if trees grow in the dirt. Of course. It's
well, again, at the time,
Is Thor the Dragon Reborn? Theories say yes.
At the time, it was still like, oh yeah, that somewhat makes sense. It was never confirmed, and no, but I think you're right. I mean, 100%. It is. Well, I look at this as a true theory just because of what we know was going on at the time. She showed up as, for those of you that are like, why is Billy so confident about this one? If you recall, Egwene makes her way to Varen's room. As she's turning a corner, she sees a slip of white at the end of a hallway, which is a very common kind of Lanfear-esque mention. Or accepted-esque mention. But then after she gets the ring from Varen, Elsie Grinwell shows up at their door, who is definitely Lanfear. Like, that one was not. Jordan actually has that one in his notes, and that was well known because Egwene, Elsie looks at the ring that Egwene has around her neck, and Egwene follows Elsie and finds Lanfear, who'd obviously been in a Mask of Mirrors situation as Elsie. And Lanfear was like, it kind of glamored her a little bit, told her to kind of go away. And then that night when she uses the ring, this person named Sylvie shows up and says, I'll show you how to use this place. And in the end, rips that ring to get her out of tel'aran'rhiod off of her neck and notices it's there. So the connection point of Lanfear showing up as Elsie, seeing the ring, knowing what it is, showing up in tel'aran'rhiod, the belief is as Sylvie. Is there anyone here, Mary? Do you not believe that Lanfear was Sylvie? Did you like this theory at the time? Were you tracking this one?
It's the easiest explanation. It fits into the narrative. It has all of Lanfear's hallmarks of white, being in the white dress, the white clothing, being in the right place at the right time with a different face, and the ripping the ring off from the world of dreams. I think I saw on the Watt, wasn't the Watt FAQ, but so, I'll find. I want to attribute this correctly. It was the Watt fandom theory is that she ripped it off as a an extra little bit of pain for a potential romantic rival, which tracks for Lanfear. But Lanfear's also one to have contingencies built on contingencies. And, if she could have turned Egwene to the dark side, or at least, had her be one of her pawns, there's potential there.
Yeah, she met with Matt in the tower around the same time, I thought.
Mm-hmm.
Also kind of showed up in Perrin's dream and promised them glory. If you go back and look at the Sylvie stuff, and Elsie was kind of told them you can go find all the stuff with the Black Aja here, which was actually Lanfear kind of directing them where Lanfear wanted them to go. And the fact that isn't it Egwene who uses the dream world and sees them in the Stone of Tyr, and I thought that drives them to go because she notices they're there. So the connection of all those pieces.
Perrin does too.
Oh, Perrin does too. Okay, yeah. So this is, like you said, Lanfear being Sylvie feels like it was just kind of de facto, like fans agreeing on it. But I'm seeing people in chat that were like, I didn't remember those things. I didn't know all those details. So again, this is why we're going back to talk about some of these things, because it's like Billy sees this and he's just like, what? He's like, what? This is not a theory.
Isn't it so cool that something from the Dragon Reborn is new to people? How cool is that?
Yeah, I do love that, actually. When I read the Dragon Reborn, I was 12, 13, and I would not have phrased it in this way then, but I would phrase it this way now. I look back and I think that the Sylvie stuff is almost sort of like Jordan teaching us how the system works and how Lanfear works, and like this is more of a thing of like here are the rules of this world, not this is a great mystery. And it never even occurred to at the time, reading as a 13-year-old, it never even occurred to me that Sylvie was not Lanfear. And when I found out that this was a question, I thought, how in the world are people confused about this? There are other theories I'm sure we'll get to that were not so obvious to 13-year-old me.
Yes, there are. And again, to people that are like, I need to pay more attention, like Superfly, right? Like this stuff, if you're not looking for it, if a character like this does not if you're not looking for the kind of speculation, certain mysteries by certain characters, it's not important to you, and you're focused. Like people don't care about Asmodean. I get it. I mean, I don't really get it, but I get it.
I do also have to address a comment that's made in the chat. Somebody says, "What was Lanfear a cartoon character and only one wore outfit?" Yes, that's correct. Lanfear's a cartoon character and only wore one outfit. Like she's Doctor Who. She wears the same clothes every time.
Right.
Until she becomes something else.
Okay, everybody, I'm ending the last one. 84 of you, thank you for keeping it up there with the number of votes. Is the Moradin killed Lanfear theory the best Lanfear theory of the last 30 plus years? Wow. This is our highest vote getter so far with 51%. Wow, check that out. I will add that then, 51%. And then let's go add this one in here. Is the Lanfear was Sylvie theory the best Lanfear theory of the last 30 plus years? Okay, moving on. This one shows up in the Watt FAQ, and I had to include it because this is a conversation we had for the last 2 days, and this theory shows up as a both. They take both sides in the Watt FAQ on this one. Lanfear was really good. The shadow behind the lights champion theory. Lanfear was really good. So what do you think about this one, Billy? I know you like that instead of was actually, working for the shadow. Do you think she was actually really working for
all right.
the good?
So this is where I have to fall down a fat hole. So I told you before about 13-year-old me. So 13-year-old me, we're sitting there, we're cooking up theories in the middle of time because this is what we do. And somebody says, "Come on, we just finished the Shadow Rising. That's all we have at the time." It's like, I think Lanfear wants to use Rand to rule the world. It's like, that's not a theory, that's reading comprehension. Unfortunately, that theory came from me. And so I can see lots of obvious things. And a friend of mine says, "Well, what if Lanfear is actually lying to Rand when she says this? What if she's lying to herself and she's actually like going to be a good person? She's going to turn at the end." And because we're 13-year-olds, we're convinced that this is this would be a shocking twist of events, and this would just totally change the game if Lanfear turned out to be good. And for a long time, I really wanted to buy this theory. I was very big on the like Lanfear might one day have a redemption arc, and the reason why I thought that is because of what the Aiel in the Aiel flashbacks. One of the Aiel is like, well, she was a good person before she opened the bore, and I really wish that my old boss would be good again. And that did not last very long. Subsequent books just took that in the trash.
It does.
Right back in the trash.
Subsequently, you find out that
she's not good. Particularly by the end of Fires of Heaven. But really, if you're paying attention by the end of the Shadow Rising, you know this. There's no redemption arc for this person. This is never going to happen.
I mean, well, no, end of Shadow Rising though, you're like, wait, she did get Rand someone to teach him how to channel
for her own purposes, as she said at the beginning of the book.
Totally, but it's like, and then we're going to take over for the creator in the Dark One. So right. it's a double-edged sword. Mary, Did you ever go down this road like Scotty May said? My first read through, I thought Lanfear was a double agent. Did you ever kind of feel like maybe there was a double agent kind of play here for Lanfear, and there was like this aspect of, in the end, she's going to be kind of for the light, if you will?
Nope.
No, done.
No. We had a redemption arc with Ingtar. I didn't think we needed another one, although having a Forsaken come back to the light would have been amusing, but now I'm kind of glad didn't. I don't need movies, I want to have nice evil characters to enjoy, and because a story is only as good as the antagonist that you have to overcome. So we need to have really good antagonists, and I didn't think she was like, yay, go Team Dark. I'm totally a team player. She was definitely not. She was on the same side. She was on her own side.
Lanfear was a team player. That should have been the
Team Lanfear. She was Team Lanfear. Definitely on her own side. Her motivations were her own, and sometimes those motivations align with the people on the shadow side. Sometimes they align with people on the side of the light, or at least they looked that way. Yeah. But contingencies on contingencies, and definitely she was playing the long game, and what finally did her in was when she lost sight of that and got distracted. And so no, I don't think she was on the side of the light. I think
she never gets distracted.
No. I can't remember if it was Jordan or Brandon or a random internet commenter. They're all equal for the power of this observation, which is, so as they said, the shadow and the light are playing chess, and she's playing backgammon. Yeah. And I really love that quote about her, because it's 100% correct. Like, she's playing a completely different game from everybody else. She doesn't really care about this struggle. She's not in it for the metaphysics.
That's a good one. I should have been posting that one. I like yes, Innkeeper Anas wrote from the Watt Companion. She had no intention of going over to the light. She wanted power much more than she could possibly have had on the side of the light, and she wanted immortality. Yeah, there was never a chance there. Let me end this last one. Is the was Sylvie theory the best theory? That actually got 84 votes again. That seems to be our kind of watermark here, and got 46%. So let me mark that one down. Okay. There we go. 46% on that one, everyone. And this one we just talked, Lanfear was really good. I guess we'll call this the shadow behind the light theory.
No, I wouldn't put it past Lanfear to have recruited Varen and have Varen be the long game spoke in the wheel of Ishmael's plan of Black and Jaw. Just making shit up as we go. Ha!
We'll
That's
get
two
there.
cusses.
We
Sorry.
we might get there. We might get there.
All right, we'll see.
So next up, you didn't know this was even coming.
No, I
but
didn't.
Our next theory is Lanfear worked with Varen. The give her the ring theory. So yes, we talked about
You have
this
a plan.
basically with Sylvie, and this idea that Varen, if you would go back and actually watch the scene between Varen and Egwene, it's Varen handing a novice a very powerful dream tel'aran'rhiod, and then not giving her any instructions, which she talks about in her head after she leaves. Doesn't tell her anything that was left by the previous dreamer that wrote all the notes about how to use this. And like I said, this is Egwene coming up to the room, seeing the slip of white, right at the same time that she gets this tel'aran'rhiod that as a novice should have no right to it, like Varen should. And then Varen gives her no explanation of how to use it, which then she's approached by Sylvie afterwards. And that's how Egwene is watched through the dream world, is her direct access and learning how to use this as a dreamer, using this as a tool to kind of get into the dream world itself. This concept of Lanfear working with Varen actually tracks back, though, to what we see with Varen showing up, if you recall. Varen shows up with everyone after Rand, Huron, and Loial go into the mirror world. And who are the two people? You have Lanfear, who's seen. Egwene sees Lanfear taking them into the mirror world through a dream. And the next day, Varen shows up and is like, hey, where is everyone? And then, if you remember, Ingtar and others were like, hey, we can go back to that village if you want. And she's like, no, I'm good. Let's just keep going forward. So you have this moment, and you find out later that Varen is, again, full spoilers, everybody. If you're here, I'm sorry. Not sorry for you. Full spoilers, Varen ends up, we find out she is Black Aja. So we have Forsaken and Varen splitting the group in two. Lanfear goes one way, Varen takes the rest, the others. They do merge those groups back together eventually. And then Lanfear, we have Lanfear later on. We have Varen taking them out to Falma. We have Lanfear showing up there, making sure that everyone, at least Min, knows that she's coming back for Rand. And then we have Lanfear later on showing up in the dream world after Varen gives a ring. So the give her the ring theory. Lanfear worked with Varen. Mary, what were your thoughts on this one? I know you heard this one a number of times over the years. What were your thoughts about this theory?
Yeah, works for me. I almost spoiled it for you there. That worked out wonderfully well. Nicely done.
That was hilarious that you brought that up.
That was, yeah. No, it makes sense because Varen's flavor of Black Aja is very different from everybody else's, and the fact that obviously full book spoilers, the fact that she was able to do her thing, whether Lanfear allowed it or Varen was able to do it under the radar, kind of fits with the entire personality and the rivalry between Lanfear and Ishamael and the long plans and the plans and contingencies that Lanfear falls back and ultimately just the accumulation of power and the degradation of everybody else's power base. It aligns very neatly.
Yeah, when you brought that up right before we started, I was like, oh, and I don't think I ever, heard it said quite like that Lanfear using that connection, using any connection of the Black Aja in the tower, honestly, but Varen being one of them, to as another person that she can use, to try to control events that are going on and to connect herself to the people that Rand likes and loves. Billy, final thoughts on this one. Lanfear worked with Varen. Did you ever like this theory?
So I was really torn on this one because I was always on the team Varen is Black Aja. I was never. I was always on team Varen is Black after my first reread. So I didn't catch on the first one, but I caught on. I didn't catch on the first read, but I caught on the first one. Because
I wasn't, but
when she lied in the dragon, when she lies in the Great Hunt, she outright lies in the Great Hunt. It's like she's black.
Moraine
but
we have,
that's right. We have enough. We have enough of her inner monologue to know that she's not actually evil, but we don't know what her game is. But I never thought that Varen, if Varen was working with Lanfear, Varen didn't know it. which doesn't mean that Lanfear didn't know it. And that to me was a big question: was did Lanfear
like
did
compulsion,
Lanfear work with,
basically,
or just like in disguise, right?
Right. Yeah. Like, did she go in as, for example, as Elsie in to see Varen,
Right.
and Varen didn't realize that she compelled her to hand over the ring or something to that effect, and walked out, and that was Elsie the entire time. She didn't know it was Lanfear.
That's right. And so I was always very, like, up until the very end, I thought maybe Varen was a dupe of Lanfear and didn't know that she was doing Lanfear's bidding.
Yeah,
So I was very open to this theory, particularly because I was convinced Varen was black.
Yep, and I think that still works here. I don't think worked has to be I think broadly speaking that Lanfear was using Varen, basically.
Yeah, Varen as pawn of Lanfear was very plausible to me. Varen as knowing pawn of Lanfear was not plausible to me.
Yeah, Lanfear, and I think that's a fair way to say it. Lanfear or Varen as pawn of Lanfear here, and the give her the ring theory that was definitely that setup of the ring was something that Lanfear orchestrated.
Yeah, to be clear though, I can't claim full points on the Varen thing. I wasn't sure if she was just evil with a weird agenda, right?
Yep. Nope. Understood. Okay, so I'm going to end this last poll. By the way, I got a request in chat. I'll probably let it go through. People didn't understand exactly how voting worked for that first one, and I got some requests to vote again on the enhancement one. We will do that one. Is about 80 of you voted on this one. Is the Lanfear was the shadow behind the light the best Lanfear theory? That one got 46%. Everyone, and let me remind everyone how to vote. Lanfear, the shadow behind. Let's see what. I'm trying to think of how I phrased that in this doc that I have. Oh yeah, the Lanfear was really good. There we go. Was really good.
Is this one of the
That was
when she's good, she's really, really
46%.
good, but when she's bad, she's better?
Exactly. Okay,
Varen is
so
Matt's second favorite character because he wanted that theory to be true. I believe that. That's a Matt theory, I believe.
well, I don't know what you're talking about. Varen was a pawn.
Matt's favorite theory is that Cat Swain was the dark one.
That is a good one.
I'm here for that theory, actually.
Is the Varen was a pawn of Lanfear theory the best theory? Lanfear theory the last 30 years. Okay, that one's up there. Next up, this one was also a theory from way back in the day. This one was Lanfear's the key to the Dark One's defeat. If you board it, you seal it theory. Mary, are you familiar with this theory enough to talk about it, or do either of you feel confident enough to talk about this one, or I can explain it?
I'm not as familiar with it, but I think I see where it's going.
Yeah, so I think the basic idea or the basic premise of this theory was that in the end, Lanfear would be instrumental. It'd be instrumental in the sealing of the boar because she was the only one that was still alive that took part in making the boar in the first place. And that's why she was basically, we have her in the Third Age, and Jordan's giving us this character, and she thinks that she's taking this down one road with Rand, but in the end, that she'll be used in some form or fashion, and key to the ending of actually sealing away the Dark One because she was key to the creation of it. Mary, how do you feel about that idea? Do you like that or no?
Seems kind of tropey. It doesn't.
It would definitely have been.
yeah. It doesn't resonate with me. It kind of ticks a few boxes, but it also just feels. No, I don't mean this to be pejorative, but it feels lazy.
Sure. Jordan had a lot of those in his notes, and almost never chose them, and that was awesome to see. Mm-hmm. Like you'd read through it and you're like, oh, don't do that one. No. Like you'd read it and go, well, that never showed up, and I'm so glad it did not. Right? Like the early Nynaeve notes, early things like in Around the Eye of the World when he was writing up some stuff, you're like, oh nope, glad we didn't go down that road. Right. So that was to me one of his greatest attributes was his kind of taking ideas that he had, and then the difference between the initial idea he had and what he actually put in the books, night and day, like the right choices went into the books. So
it's just shines a light on his creative process, which is fascinating. And it sounds logical, but it doesn't sound inspired.
Okay, that's reasonable. Billy, what did you think about this one? The Lanfear would have been the key to the Dark One's defeat when it comes to
So,
sealing him away.
The wisdom of a 13-year-old having read The Fires of Heaven is Moraine's obviously Gandalf, because I've read at this point in my life like 3 fantasy books. And then that raises the question of who's Gollum. Is Gollum going to be Padan Fain, or is Padan going to be Lanfear? Or is Gollum going to be Padan Fain, or is Gollum going to be Lanfear? And so I had a theory for a long time that Lanfear was either going to be wittingly or unwittingly key to sealing the boar back up along the lines of this.
Yep.
And as Mary says, that's a little bit tropey, but the Wheel of Time, part of the entire point of the Wheel of Time is to sort of take these tropes and go mess with them. And so I wasn't really sure how this was going to go. And to be honest, I've always really wondered what Jordan had planned for Lanfear's final, what's Lanfear's final scene in Memory of Light, because we know that there's a big gap there. And I've always wondered what Jordan really intended for this. I'm not unhappy with what Brandon did, and I'm sure we'll have theories about that coming in a couple of minutes. But as Mary says, like, it feels tropey and it feels lazy, and I'm curious to see if there was any avenue that Jordan considered in the later years as to whether he was going to go this way. That said, I'm glad it didn't happen. I agree with Mary. It's better that it didn't go that way.
Yeah, it feels like it could have early on. And a lot of stuff with Lanfear in the first 5 books, I feel like Jordan's final choices for Lanfear are not the choices he was thinking in books 2 and 3.
I agree with that.
I feel like the stuff she did with Matt, showing up in the White Tower with Matt, showing up there with Perrin, her kind of interactions with Egwene, all of that really kind of goes away, and then she's gone after book 5. I feel like whatever he was planning completely changed. And so, I would be fascinated to know what Jordan actually would have done in the end. That would be.
I actually think that Jordan putting the mud trap on Sindane was Jordan deliberately telling himself Lanfear's agency in the outcome of this story is off the table.
It's gone.
And he, whatever decision he made after, in Lord of Chaos time, because we know he made changes to Demandred as well. Whatever changes he was making in that time frame, I think he definitely downgraded what he thought Lanfear was going to be doing in the end.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad that Brandon kept to that. Does that make sense? Like,
absolutely.
We're gonna get to what that is. But Brandon did keep to that idea in the actual kind of what Brandon puts in there. I'm gonna end this one. 68% said yes, Varen was a pawn of Lanfear. Let me throw that one in here. 68%. Is that how it showed up in actual chat there? Sometimes those numbers change. Yep.
Yeah.
I'm going to go back, everyone, and I'm going to do the first one again. That'll just be a quick poll, everyone. You have to vote on this one. We're going to go back. If you missed the artificial enhancement one, people didn't feel like they knew how the voting worked at that time. So is the Lanfear's beauty was, we'll just say, was enhanced. Well, I guess we'll say, let's see if I have enough letters for artificially. I don't think I do. Last 30 plus. I'm 3 characters over, everybody. How about Lanfear's beauty was artificially enhanced theory?
The Lanfear had work done theory.
The best Lanfear theory of, we'll take the out. There we go. Of last 30 plus years. There you go, everybody. You can vote on that one. We'll let that one go for 2 minutes here, and then I'll put this other one up. Lanfear is the key to the Dark One's defeat. But we'll move on from there. This is this. I know Billy's going to respond to this one. You're going to respond to this one just like you responded to the Sylvie one. So I'm not even going to say it. I just want you to read it, and then I will hear your reaction. The next theory is that Lanfear set the time loop trap, the time warp with lose again theory. Billy, can you explain what this theory is? Do you recall what this is?
This is the Great Hunt, right?
This is the Great Hunt. Yep.
Yeah. So the theory here is that when Rand goes into the village with the flies, and they keep resetting, he keeps having that experience over and over again. That Lanfear set the bait for this, or that Lanfear set this trap with the 1 power. And I'm actually gonna flip the script on you here.
Okay.
I had no idea.
So
and
you
it turns out it turns out Robert Jordan didn't either.
Well, where
you know what I'm getting at here, right?
Did I not? Hold on. Did I not? Shoot. I'm
What'd you do, Matt?
trying to think if I actually included a quote from this. I thought I found a quote, and now I'm going to be really annoyed that I didn't add it.
I
to
know
this.
the quote. I think I know the quotes you're thinking of.
So in the notes, Robert Jordan does have Lanfear doing it.
That's right.
In the answers to interviews, I think
That's
that
right.
he puts it on Pat and Fane.
He puts it on Pat Payne. And Maria, there's a quote. There's a place where Maria is asked about this, and Maria's like, "What are you talking about?" And the person asking Maria says, "Jordan said in person in an interview that it was Pat and Fane that did this." And she's like, "That can't be right. There's no way he said that." They're like, "No, he said that." She's like, "I don't know if that's correct."
By the way, this is a good time to reset and remind everybody. George just asked, how are all of these the Lanfear theories all the best in the past 30 years? What we're doing is we're going through 12 of the really well-known and discussed theories. Some of these are kind of groupings of theories. There are a couple that would kind of work into each one of these. And we're finding out if you think this belongs as one of the best or the best. And we're taking what the percentage is of the yeses out there that people are voting. And at the very end, we're going to take the top 4 and have everyone choose one. So if you want a theory that we're talking about to show up in the final 4, vote yes. If you don't want it to show up in the final 4, vote no. And that's how we're kind of breaking this down, everybody. It's a good kind of recall or reminder. By the way, I'm going to end this theory vote. Is the Lanfear's beauty was artificially enhanced theory, the best Lanfear theory of the last 30 years. This one did, this time, get 60%. That is quite different from its initial 30%. So that is more likely to show up at the very end. And then I'm going to ask this other one, which was, I'm so bummed that I didn't grab that quote, by the way. But yes, you've brought us back to that moment of having both of those answers out there. That's a very common, it's a very common Jordan thing that would happen. Is something in his notes he ended up he decides something different. And you're like, but you didn't change the words in the book.
I don't
the
think
words in the book.
I think this is a legitimate mistake by Robert Jordan. I think that Robert Jordan, the human who answered that question, because I think he answered that question maybe at DragonCon in 2005 or something like that. I think he had just forgotten the answer. I really do, because it just doesn't seem right at all.
No, it's not. I mean, you see that again. You see that person in white, right? He's like, Rand sees the woman in white in a window. It's obviously, we know Lanfear's. The quote was, and I didn't include it. It's talking about that Pat and Fane area that we talked about with Celine, and basically he says like that. Shamael knew that Pat and Fane was going to betray him, and had purposely sent Lanfear to follow them and dog Pat and Fane's trail, and then it goes into the fact that there's that time loop. I'm pretty sure that's in the notes. So later on, I think I would accept that explanation you just gave, which is he just at the time he answered the question, he did not remember that. Yeah, I would accept that as a. Mary, did you ever like this theory, the Lanfear set the time loop trap? Did it just seem obvious to you? Again, white in the window, and once we met Lanfear over the next book and kind of got to know that, like, went back and were like, that was definitely Lanfear going after Lews Therin. As Rand.
It definitely. It made me think that maybe Lanfear was involved in Pat and Fane becoming who he did and turning him against Ishamael, but that's not what this show is about. So.
That's true. Oh, by the way, to IT, this is my first time hearing these theories, but that's because I read all the books last year. It's awesome listening to the longtime fans. Yeah, this was part of why doing this one is so much fun. Hopefully, hopefully it's just fun to hear this, and that we went on these ridiculous rants for decades about theories. We at Theoryland went to DragonCon 2005. Because we had been talking about certain theories for 7 years, and no one would let go their side. Like, we went with a list of questions so we could basically make everyone talk about something else.
Curating this list.
Curating the questions. And like
we did.
We have audio files where people are just like, you could hear Robert Jordan, he would give an answer, and then you would hear multiple people go, oh man, this is going to hurt so-and-so. Like, they've been arguing this for 5-7 years on the internet, and now they're going to hate that.
This phenomenon is replicated in the Cosmere world whenever people ask Brandon questions.
I bet. Oh yeah. That does not surprise me whatsoever.
Our people.
My fellow innkeeper sent me that time loop question. Oh, is it right here? Let me see. Oh, yeah, here it is. So another interesting question was about the scene with all the flies in the house. Now, this one is actually, is this a paraphrased? This is paraphrased, but anyway. The scene where Rand sees the same thing over and over again was actually Fane's doing, a trap devised by him to put Rand in a time loop forever. And as you can see, the footnote from Therese added this footnote, which is, this is the note from the same file. Lanfear, of course, laid the trap for him in the village. None could trigger it, but one who could channel her own test, perhaps to see if he really is who Ba'alzamon claims him to be, or at least if he might be. If he's the Dragon Reborn, he must be at least potentially one of the most powerful channelers in the history, and it would take a powerful channeler to escape from that loop. It would also serve the purpose of pushing him to use the power. Or it's Pat and Fane.
I would. Can you bring that quote back up, Matt?
Okay, yeah.
Because I want to point out the two most important words in that. Pull it back up.
Oh, go back up, yeah.
Yeah, pull it back up. The two most important words are go down to the box.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Yep. It says, of course. Lanfear, of course, laid the trap for him.
Of course,
in the
laid the
village.
trap.
Of course he did. So, of course, 13 years later, he changes his mind and says, now it's Pat and Fane. Come on, it's Lanfear.
Good times. Oh, man, we lived off of these answers. I can't even explain just how devastating these things were.
Lanfear, of course.
Of course. Okay, let me see what do we have the vote on the other one here. The last one we did was is the Lanfear's key to the Dark One's defeat. 47% liked that one. It's again, glad he didn't end up using it, but understandably, it fits. It fits almost too well, but it does.
It could
fit.
have happened.
Yes.
There's a multiverse Wheel of Time out there where it did happen.
Exactly. I ended that poll. It has not shown up yet for some strange reason, but I'm sure it will here shortly. There it is. Is Lanfear. 47% said yes on that one. I think we were just talking about the time loop. Yes, we were. So let me add this one in. You guys are awesome for sticking around again.
Yeah, this one's going long, guys. I'm sure we're shocked by this.
Of you that are live with us right now, you're awesome for
Matt plus theories plus time. One of these is going to break, and it's not Matt or the theories.
And I'm an enabler,
Is the Lanfear set time loop trap theory the best theory of the last 30 years? This felt like this theory always struck me as, well, of course it was Lanfear. This is to your Billy when you're like, well, that was Sylvie. Like this one going back, you reread and you're like, yeah, that was Lanfear. Like that's an actual theory versus just a fact.
I'm gonna say, as much as I've been like, of course I do the answer to these the whole time. This one, I was legitimately not sure. I didn't know if it was Ishmael or whatever. Going back and reading The Great Hunt, it's quite obvious that the Lanfear is the big bad of that book in the shadows. But I wasn't sure.
At the time, I think I was kind of obsessed with Lanfear at the time.
No way. At the time?
Shocking.
At the time. So,
at the time was 30 seconds ago.
Yes. What happens if we vote yes on all of them? You can continue voting yes on it. Everyone's not going to vote yes on all of them. So they're going to be, we're going to have a top 4 out of this. So yeah, feel free to vote. If you like all of these, feel free to vote on all of them. And yes.
And you're going to counteract everybody who's voting no on them. So it balances out.
Yes. And this is good. Yes. No, it was intuitively obvious. That's Jordan's intuitively obvious to the casual observer thing. Oh, that drove me bonkers. It still does some days. That's so great. Just to the casual observer, it's like, no. I love that about Jordan. He messed with us so much. He loved to play this game. This is one of the game we are playing right now is the game he was playing with us. You have to remember legacy. That. This is
his legacy.
This what we're doing right now. He loved this, loved it, and he talked about loving it. And he would be laughing because he'd be like, "Oh man, the stuff you missed or the stuff I built in there you just haven't even thought of yet is still there."
Or changed my mind on.
Or changed his mind. Yeah, exactly. The next one, Sindane equals no enhancements. Mary, the Mirren's original state theory. Mary, do you want to explain this one to the audience?
Yeah, so this was a theory that was submitted to Theoryland probably in 2003, right around the time Winter's Heart. And the theory is that Sindane is Lanfear. So at that time, it was not clear if Sindane was Lanfear or not. But the theory was that Sindain is Lanfear, but that is the unenhanced Lanfear, the original Lanfear, the Lanfear that had all of her enhancements stripped away, all of her power boosts, all of her beauty boosts, all of the aura, the glamour stripped away. So it was just Lanfear in her original form. And because it's such, she went through everything to get to that point, through the Alvin and Eelfin, through all of that. It physically, was just, it was all part of the stripping her back down to her basic form. All the buffs removed. Yeah, and that's what Sindain.
Yeah.
And then it's her last chance to make good on her selling her soul to the Dark One, I guess.
Yeah, that Billy, have you ever heard of this one? The idea that this was kind of like the stripped down version of Lanfear. Do you recall this one?
I had heard this one and I never bought it.
Okay, yeah, go for it.
I was never a fan of this one because it didn't fit with how we had previous treatment of Erengar and Osengar, and they showed up with new bodies. And I think even was it Isom is the one that's put into Lord Luke, right? And so this just isn't how bodies work in the Wheel of Time. Yeah. And I could buy into the theory that that this is an unaugmented. If you bought the theory that she went to the Fen, got a wish, and that made her more powerful in the one power, and now that power has been taken away after she's been reborn in this new body. I could possibly buy into that, but I never was really on she went through the portal anyway. So I never really put a lot of stock into this one.
Yeah, this one I feel like you had to go further out on the limb for all the different metaphysics that we understood about transmigration and how channeling worked. Christian said would the other Forsaken would have recognized Sindain as Lanfear, though this would have happened. So you would have had to have done a physical. These would have had been mods that were made prior to even the Boar, even people
not necessarily
even knowing.
No. Not necessarily.
So how would they not or you're saying that they would just know that she had these enhancements?
There was no indication in the Big White Book that the Forsaken, the Chosen, whatever you want to call them, knew each other before they all swore. I mean, they were just the top tier lieutenants that happened to be at the Boar at the time of the sealing. They didn't work together during the War of the Shadow. And Lanfear was one of the first to swear to the Shadow shortly after the Boar was drilled. And keep in mind, there was 100 years before the Boar was between when the Boar was drilled and the War of Power started. So there's a lot of time in there for her to have changed her appearance, it augmented her appearance, augmented herself, put her plans into place, and then meet her fellow lieutenants and work with them, work against them, connive, steal, pillage, whatever. So there's just because they're all chosen doesn't mean they knew each other back in the day. They just happened to all be at the Boar when the Boar was patched by the Strike and Shile Gold.
So there's a couple, I would say. So yesterday I had to do some research on this. I know this is going to maybe seem like a surprise because maybe both of you had heard this before. Lanfear was actually in the middle of the group that actually swore, and she swore about 50 years after the Boar was created. Okay. I totally had that wrong for a long time. I don't know why I did
too, actually.
I know. It was it's shocking. It looks like Ishamael was probably the first. And the reason why he was probably the first is we're not told who the first is. We're actually told that Grendel, Agenor, Ishamael, and Semirhage were among the first, and then we're given a time. Actually, we're told Grendel was the second, actually, of the remaining of the living Forsaken, the Chosen, and we're told that was within the first 25 years from the Boar. Lanfear doesn't actually swear until 50 years later, basically, and only swears after Lews Therin gets married to Ilyena, which is 50 years after the Boar, about 50 plus years. And it's after that moment where she tries to break that up and doesn't. Then she swears over the Shadow. I just feel like she was a well-known figure to have dated Lews Therin at that point. She was clearly, if she's breaking up the marriage or attempting to, and shows up at the wedding of basically the person who's sitting in the Tamerlan seat, I would imagine he was in that role 50 years into the collapse. And at his marriage, she would have been all over the news, right? That's what I'm saying is I feel like the look of Lanfear, of course, they might just know this, right? They could know but they would have seen her. They would have known who Mirren Arenell was from from a news standpoint by the mid collapse, I guess is my point. That's where I would say they would definitely be aware of that aspect. So, but again, this is this. You do have to go through a couple loops here, but this is the whole second age enhancement, not necessarily how we think about one power Mask of Mirrors stuff. So I'm going to end this other one is the Lanfear set the time loop trap theory, the best Lanfear theory. That one got 53%. I'm like, that one to me is like, that is like a fact. It's hard, right? It's hard because like in my head, I'm like, well, how can a fact, like the same thing. I had that same thing, Billy, like these at the time we didn't know, right? It wasn't a fact, if you will, in that time. So that's what I like about this discussion is it's not about which one turned out to be true.
Right.
It's just about the actual like theory itself. So let me throw this one in there. We're going to Sindane equals no enhancements. Theory, the best theory.
Baseline mirroring.
Baseline mirroring. Yeah.
Baseline mirroring.
This one is, I don't know if you both remember this one. This one, I will explain this one. The Shanchan and the Dark Prophecy, she'll make them kneel theory. So this one comes from the Dark Prophecy. Daughter of the night, she walks again. The ancient war she yet fights. Her new lover she seeks. Who shall serve her yet die, yet serve still? Who shall stand against her coming? The shining walls shall kneel. The ancient war she yet fights. This idea being that Lanfear initially was looking at ways to take down the Aes Sedai and also obviously pick up Rand and as the Dragon Reborn, and that she was out here when it said the shining walls shall kneel, that the only power group, the only group that could ever make the shining walls kneel would be the Shanchan. And there's a number of references throughout the next couple of books, book 2, 3, and 4, and 5, where she gates in or she's seen in a dream by Perrin, or she goes to see Ravine, where people see like over her shoulder, they see like these silk hangings with birds and the motif of birds everywhere. And the idea being that she starts to go and start setting up with the Shanchan to use them in the future, but doesn't because she leaves in book 5. And so we don't get anything further than that. Had you ever heard this one, Billy? And if not, what do you think?
I don't recall ever hearing this one, but I think I would have liked it depending on how early I heard it. This is one of those theories that doesn't really make any sense after the Fires of Heaven.
No, it's an early. It definitely was a Great Hunt, Dragon Reborn, Shadow Rising kind of.
My bet is if I went back and read an early Watfak, it would be in there. Because it's definitely anytime you can attribute Lanfear to anything in the Watfak, they will do it, and because you're not the only Lanfear obsessed person in the history of Watt fandom, to be sure.
No,
and,
that is true.
You might be the most advanced case I've seen, but I think it's a neat idea. This is one of those things where I've always wondered how much Jordan really planned out Lanfear's arc, because when the tower, I will say that when the tower coup happens in the Shadow Rising, I did really wonder if Lanfear had a hand in it, because I think Masana was on nobody's radar at that time. We had no reason to associate her with anybody, and so I had wondered if like Lanfear was one of the Aes Sedai that ran it. Basically, I wasn't sure if Masana's role that we now know she played wasn't Lanfear at the time, and I think that was plausible, and I definitely would have bought into this theory on the grounds that like she engineered the coup, and therefore when the tower is split and the rebels come in and bring Elida to heal, Lanfear is going to exploit that situation. That's not how it went down, but I definitely would have bought into that theory if I'd heard it.
Well, if I feel like this happened a lot. Ishamael and Lanfear were kind of set up to like they were going to do a lot of stuff, and then Jordan like spread things out. Like then we get Masana and Semiraj, right? Like if Lanfear's not going to be around, who's going to be kind of key to those places? And so you start to get like Jordan. I think initially was like, wait, I can't give all my plots to just these two. Like other people have to do things. So
well, I mean, he starts with 13 Forsaken, and 2 of them don't even make it past the first book. And when they're doing it, they're on there for like 4 pages. I mean, it's almost like they're very expendable or they're super important. And I think he sort of tried to smooth that curve out a bit.
Yeah. Mary, did you like this one? Do you remember hearing it? And what do you think about it?
I vaguely remember hearing about it. Probably people making connection between Lanfear and her sigil being the crescent moon and stars, and we knew that the Seanchan used moons, or the daughter of the 9 moons was mentioned as early as the Great Hunt, and people were probably, oh, moon, they must be connected. Right. Which, being a young theorist, I don't know about you, Matt. I didn't start till I was 16. Not 13, but yeah, that makes perfect sense.
I started reading when I was 15, so I probably I was writing stuff down in notes. So that 15 to 18 was like, yes.
I have the most immature perspective of any of us here, and that's probably still
it's
true.
Like 15 or 16, whatever. But yeah, it's enough of a hook to hang a theory on, especially in the early 90s when we had fewer books and more space to speculate. But setting up a power base, all of the, even back then, Ishmael didn't have a power base, but we start seeing the Chosen setting up bases of power. We did have Samael having a base of power in the Dragon Reborn, and then we got Raven got a base of power, and then so it's like we spent a whole bunch of time speculating, well, where is everybody? And just because one Forsaken is claimed as their domain doesn't mean another is not going to move in either to usurp it or to pick up where they left off, which I could totally buy that Lanfear started manipulating the tower and was instrumental to the coup. And then Masana picked up where she left off because Lanfear's attention drifted elsewhere and Masana pounced on an opportunity. But was, Lanfear part of the Seanchan? It was plausible. I don't think I bought into it, but it definitely had legs.
Yeah,
one of my friends, I was going to say one of my friends was very convinced that Lanfear was going to marry Matt because daughter of the 9 moons and daughter of the night being the moon, like these are the same thing. It's like, that's not how this works. But yeah, there was a lot of that sort of stuff going around back then.
Oh, for sure. I mean, it was like anything, like a moon and a moon, they must be connected, right? Like that's where you're going to go.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
I did that all the time. Is the Sindane equals no enhancements? That got 23%. Let me mark that down. And then let me, if I can find where the no enhancements one was. Sindane. Oh, there it is. 23. And let me ask this one, everybody. What did you think about the Seanchan? Is the Seanchan...
And hey, the Crystal Throne is a tel'aran'rhiod that induces awe. So that aligns with Lanfear's shtick.
Well, there's also the idea, like, if you just think from like a book structure standpoint, the Seanchan are introduced in book 2 and Lanfear is introduced in book 2, and just saying that sort of thematically from a book structure standpoint, you could associate the two being connected in some way. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's not outlandish. It feels really stupid looking back from 14 books, but if you're sitting there in 1992 and you don't even have the Shadow Rising yet, it's very reasonable to think this.
Well, especially because she shows up, right? She's taking care, like she's obviously, again, if you do all those connections between, she split off to the mirror world, and then there's Varen, and then you go to the end of the Great Hunt, and she shows up with Min, and she's like making sure that Rand, and basically the Seanchan come in and don't do anything bad to Rand, right? She's like, but she's part of all those events in some form or fashion. She's around. So again, it's that connection that we all did. Okay, everybody, we are at the last one before we, I know that was a quick, maybe 12 here. I'm going to allow everyone to throw ideas here. After this, you're going to get one opportunity where all of us, the 3 of us, are going to look at chat, and we're going to see if we see a theory that wasn't mentioned here, and we'll add it as the 13th. That's right, 13. This was planned, Forsaken. That's just how this works. So, and then we'll add that as the 13th one that we'll discuss. We'll tell you what we think about that one that we pick, and then we will vote on that one, and then we'll pick a winner. The last one, we all knew this was coming, right? We all don't. I'm not even going to play coy on this one. So this last theory, Lanfear duped Perrin. The she lives theory. So this one, I can explain this one. This one happens at the end of A Memory of Light, where Perrin believes that he understands how to use tel'aran'rhiod, believes he understands how to read this person that he doesn't know very well, and believes that he is outside of the glamoring effect of Lanfear, and he sees through all of her plans, and in the end believes that he has killed Lanfear, when in fact it was recently revealed by one Brandon Sanderson that Lanfear duped Perrin and actually used Perrin for her own needs. And in this way, this was for her to walk away, watching what happened, making sure that Rand did seal up the Dark One, which is in the end what she did want. Last Chance Lanfear needed the Dark One to go away for her to survive, and actually needed Ashamael to lose too. Ashamael walking away would have negatively affected her because of that mind trap. So in the end, she wanted Rand to win, the Dark One to be sealed away, Ashamael to die, and also wanted everyone to believe that she passed away too, adding to just the effect of her being able to sail off into the Fourth Age without anyone trailing her, perhaps, or looking for her. The she lives theory. Billy, what was your reaction to this theory? Had you ever heard it before this thing was revealed by Brandon?
Matt, you gave me one. That fucking bitch. I was not here. I was not here for this theory when Brandon announced it. I heard this, not theory, this secret when I was, oh my God, are you serious? Are you serious? Are we really doing this? Can we not just let things? And then I think I slept on it and I said, yeah, that's awesome. Of course she did. Of course she did. No, I did not like the theory. I had heard this theory that she survived because she's Lanfear, and of course she did. And I thought, God, can we please just let this story be what it is? And this being sort of like this sort of post hoc statement by Brandon about what actually happened in the canon that we don't have. There's almost a part of me that wishes we had this in the text. Yeah. But I do. It is 100% in her character. It's 100% in her character, and it's also 100% in Perrin's character.
Yes.
I think that this is completely consistent with the characters. I didn't like it from a meta standpoint as a reader, but I think from a character standpoint, it makes complete sense. And honestly, the more I think about it, the more inevitable it actually feels to me. If I sit there and think back of all the things we talked about all night long, of all the things she did in the early books, it's actually obvious that she lived.
Yeah, this is. Again, I get it. I love this character, and I felt like when I remember the moment that I read in the beta, and you've done these before, like you leave a comment and you have zero concept of what happens after that comment goes. You just leave it. And I remember like him saying, I remember writing, don't use 3-2-1. That's the dumbest thing. Everyone will notice because Lanfear would never do that in tel'aran'rhiod. Like, there's no reason to do 3-2-1. There's just no reason. Right. And I was like, please don't, because if this is what you're intending, I love it, obviously. But please take that out because I don't want it to be so obvious. And when I got the final book, I went right to the end and I was like, damn it, he left it in. And I was like, this is going to be so obvious if this is what he intended. But he never, well, I shouldn't say that. I did find out, I think I've told the story, you can go back and watch the video. I can't remember if I got the final copy of the book before I talked to Brandon about it and knew that that was his plan right before the book came out. So yes, fun moment for me personally. Glad it's already out there. And I agree with you 100%. Knowing Perrin, knowing Lanfear, it just makes sense as much as people don't like it. Mary, how did you feel about this theory?
Before or after the revelation?
Both.
Kind of similar to Billy. It's absolutely plausible. It is definitely on brand. It's on character. I kind of like it because it speaks to Lanfear's conniving nature, and it also speaks to her brilliance. And it also plays into my theory that, she wasn't about ruling the world. She was all about the power. And what better way to get power than to clear the clutter of everything that is keeping her from her goal? So from both sides.
Yeah.
And there's also the fourth age vision that Avienda had, where things did not look very good. We did not have a shining future to look forward to. And you would think, after the last battle, everything would be coming together neatly, and it doesn't. And I kind of like that, because the world isn't like that. That didn't happen at the end of World War One. It didn't happen at the end of World War Two. That was 20 years later, and things just got, horrendously worse. And life is not like that. And there isn't a nice tidy bow at the end. Life will keep going. It will go in different directions. It will be messy. It is not, you're not going to have Egwene there making the White Tower live up to its potential. You're not going to have, all of these cool things that could have happened, because life's messy. And now Lanfear is in the middle of it to make it even more messy. And, that's kind of messed up and cool at the same time. And I'm all about that.
One thing that I, if I may, Matt, earlier I made the comment that, like, obviously Moraine is Gandalf, and it's like, where is Smeagol? Where is Gollum? And I'm sitting there reading the I'm reading Memory of Light, and like, okay, is Paddon Fane going to be Gollum at the end? Is this how this is going to go? Blah 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 blah. And finish the book, close it. 10 years pass, and we find out actually. The Dark One is Morgoth, and Lanfear is Sauron. She has survived. She has survived, and she's the lieutenant who can now create mischief in the next stage. And I thought to myself, that is dirty. That's dirty. That's
it's
my
very
kind of
dirty.
Dirtiness. It's very dirty.
It is dirty. And yes, it can be seen as a little bit tropey, but you could also say, it wasn't written in the book, so it's not canon, so I don't have to believe it.
Yeah, I don't have to believe it. That's right.
Yeah, that's true. I've played that thing so much. Let me end this last one that we just did. Is the Seanchan and Dark Prophecy theory the best theory? 51% on that one. So let me see the Seanchan here, everybody. I think that was up there. There we go. Seanchan Dark Prophecy, 51%. I think that's what that came out to be. And then we will ask on the Lanfear duped. And I'm going to make, it was the Lanfear duped Perrin theory, the best of the last 30 plus years. So, and so I got asked this question in chat, which was, did it bother me that I couldn't push the theory because I knew it? Yes, it did, because, well, and I've told people this, doing beta reads changes your relationship with material and then relationship with fandom. And I did not understand that at all until I got to help with Towers of Midnight and A Memory of Light. I would not go back and change that decision. I don't think I've ever said I would. It's just, I wish I would have known what I was getting into in that moment. Because I remember doing the Tower of Midnight and being like, oh, they pulled in the guy that started the Theoryland website into a beta read. And that destroyed me. Like, it just was like, I could no longer. I tried. I did that whole kind of like, I'll tell what I thought what my ideas were without knowledge. It's so hard, and it's just not fun.
It's very hard.
It loses the fun of why I did Theoryland in the first place. And so, yes, I was so disappointed I asked Brandon that question. He said, ask me anything, and I will tell you the answer. In a Denny's. Like, I was sitting there, Taylor's like 13 sitting next to me. He asked me that question, and I looked around, because you guys know how I was like, what is going on? Like, what do you mean you'll answer any question? And I'm really bummed I asked this question, but also, like, it was amazing to hear the answer. Then I did not ask him any other question, because I was like, I can't have him ruin the fun that I would have for the next 50 years of my life, whatever, talking about theories by knowing answers to theories. So some of you might have kept on asking him questions. I just stopped in that moment. He gave me one yes, and I was like, okay, I can't do this anymore. This is terrible.
The real tragedy to me, Matt, of the fact that you had to hold on to the secret for 10 years is that you could have zealously advocated for it and would not have been evidence at all.
Yes.
It's not
I would
evidence at all.
I would have zealously advocated for it. I put it out there. If you could go back and find, you could go find mention. I put one out there, and then I was like, okay, well, the idea is out there. I had this idea before I knew. So
A person in chat says Sarah Nakamura has this problem too, and I have to feel that way for her too.
Was it IHAP? See, now I'm like confused. Yeah, maybe it was IHAP. Sorry. In my head, IHAP and Denny's, same location.
There were pancakes involved.
Yeah, it was at an IHOP or Denny's, but probably an IHOP. Now that you're pointing that out, Innkeeper, thank you. We are.
And the next turning, it'll be a Waffle House.
We've come to the end. I'm going to end this one. 84 of you have almost voted in the first 2 minutes. Well, I'll give it a couple more minutes since everything else had 5 minutes. Everyone in chat, I saw this show up. You have a chance to give us what you think the 13th theory we should consider as one of the best theories of the last 30 years. I already saw one from Marisu. So I'm going to post that to our group. In chat, if there's something you believe that we should be discussing and we did not, and I'll show this to my guests. Did anyone mention the theory about Matt's luck coming from something Lanfear did with the 5-dice tel'aran'rhiod? That is actually one of those theories that was big among forums. So thank you very much. I did not include this one. I think because it's kind of that like, oh no, like Robert Jordan kind of told fans, during interviews, like, no, this is not the case. But I still think this is a very valid one for us to consider. So, does Lanfear keep her connection? So I think that's one of the ones we should say is that we're going to go for the 13th. Does Lanfear keep her connection to the Dark One in the Fourth Age after his prison? Oh, that's just a question. No, that's the ceiling. Her being in world and him being gone, that connection's severed. So, is there anyone else that has a theory from the last 30 years you want us to discuss for our 13th theory? Riss Swank said, I always wonder if Sarah Nakamura is going through something similar. You can guarantee, like I said, Billy and I can say, yes, anyone that is actually involved in the material side of providing advice and can't be on the fandom side of providing the reaction to that outside of that knowledge is going to go through something very similar. So yes, I would imagine that Sarah, again, it's not because you do it and then you want to go like, oh, this sucks, I wish I wouldn't have. It's just a change. And yeah, there are situations where I'm like, I wish I wouldn't have asked Brandon X, but I'm glad I was part of the group because there are moments, and Billy can maybe attest to this, but for the Wheel of Time, it was something that I loved so much that even if one thing I said made a difference to make it more consistent with all of the canon, just one thing there, I can't tell it to you right now, but yeah, I know of one thing where I was like, this is actually important. This was in the text. This is a build-up to a moment, and this sentence here does not. And it turned into 2 sentences. And it was like, so it was like a little nod, and I was like, well, it was something. Okay, that is better than those 2 sentences. To me, make a huge difference than the one sentence that would have been there. So, I am glad. Let me see. I saw that Pavara has one. Did I miss it, everybody? Oh, yeah, here we go. Pavara. Let me show this one to my guests. Where is it? Sorry.
Is it that she created Aes Sedai?
Theory. Mirren wrote Mirrors of the Wheel. Okay, the book she quotes in The Great Hunt to teach Rand how to use the portal stones. Okay, that's a fun one. So that's 2. Does anyone else have a theory that they're like? Let me know if I missed it. That you want us to.
That theory was actually Raffod.
Was that theory Raffod?
That theory was Raffod.
I don't remember that.
Yeah,
I'm going to end this other one. 86% on the dupe theory. Okay, and anyone else have one they want us to consider? Did I miss anybody? Say it again in chat if I missed it.
Yeah, I thought there was a theory that Lanfear was recruiting Aes Sedai to build a power base, but I don't see it.
Post it again if you... yeah, and Innkeeper, yeah, go ahead and start the giveaway so we can do these simultaneously, and then my fellow guest here will talk about these. So far we have the Matt Dice one, or we have the wrote Mirrors of the Wheel. Billy, do you have a preference of those 2?
I think
what's our 13th
I
theory?
think
is
there's
gonna
actually more to talk about on the Matt's dice.
be. I would agree with that. I would agree with it. For you, Mary, do you like the Matt's dice being our 13th theory?
I like the other one better.
Okay.
The book one.
You like the book one.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with the dice just because I remember just how much we were talking about Matt's luck and how Lanfear had to go or dealt with that question of Matt's luck. So sorry, Pavara out there. I think that's a good conversation piece and good discussion on the mirrors of the wheel. But the dice piece, this idea that Lanfear, because Matt's luck does begin really like basically right then after Lanfear. Do you remember, Billy, what Robert Jordan actually said that was?
So she's in there to catch our people up. She walks in and she's like waving her fingers over Matt, and there's a question of like, I think this is at the same time that the Black Aja are messing with the tel'aran'rhiod in the storeroom or something like that. And the speculation is, or the theory goes, that Lanfear was somehow messing with was using the tel'aran'rhiod to like bless Matt with luck, or somehow this happened. And we know from there was a lot of talk about this for a long time. This went on for years. People wondering if somehow this had happened, that Lanfear had done this. And I think Jordan actually said in a question session, no, she was just patching him up.
Yeah, she was checking on his health.
Checking. Yeah, she was checking in on him.
Yeah. This was I think that the idea being that, well, again, I think even Jordan said about this. I bet I can find this I can look this up really easily in the theory.
It's in the
interview.
Theoryland database, I know.
So, Lanfear, and we'll do luck. How about that? Okay, dice. Yeah, here it is. In The Dragon Reborn, Lanfear visits Matt as he was recuperating from his one-power surgery of the dagger. At one point, she stretches out her hand towards him and he feels a tingle go over him. Somebody interrupts them, and she turns her head and sobs. She turns her head and sobs. At about the same time, a member of the Black Aja stole Angreal and tel'aran'rhiod out of the Tower cache, one of which was a tel'aran'rhiod that was known to have some effect on chance. So it was about this time that Matt's really, really weird luck and dice rolling in his head began. Is this connection or coincidence? Robert Jordan said this is a coincidence. When they say that Matt has the Dark One's own luck, he can get as mad as he wants to, but in a way it's true. It wasn't a gift from Lanfear, though.
What's the date on that one, man?
That was one of the ones that came from DragonCon, 2005.
2000. That was late.
Yep, that was one of the latest ones. In that case, what was Lanfear doing? She was checking his health. She doesn't care very much, except that he's important to Rand, to Lews Therin, him and Perrin both. So she is interested in the one she wants mainly is Lews Therin, or wanted anyway, and so she is interested in the other two ta'veren, which seem to be tied with him. So
yeah, this one was debated with no evidence at all for years and years and years. I remember this one.
So let me ask everybody, please stick around for the final vote. We'll get this one out. Is the Lanfear, we'll just say Lanfear gave Matt, or Lanfear dice and Matt's luck theory the best theory of the last 30 years? We'll ask that. Give you guys 2 minutes. Thank you very much for doing the raffle. As a reminder, if you want another chance to win a giveaway for, grabbing a mug, some swag from the Dusty Wheel Zazzle store, after this live stream is over, leave a comment about your favorite Lanfear theory. I'll pick, which you can repeat one of the ones we had. No, I won't just pick the ones that were the theories I came up with. So I will just, whatever you post there, I will just try to randomly choose someone that leaves a comment with a theory, and I will get a hold of you through YouTube. So you have 2 chances to grab this. If you're not here for the live stream for the raffle right now, leave a comment afterwards. Again, I love seeing the theories, and it does help YouTube's algorithm. This is true. The more comments you have, the more they'll show it to people. They might be interested in seeing your video. So, which is why live streams don't do very well on YouTube, or one of the reasons. So
I don't think I heard what Mary's view was of that theory of Matt.
Oh yeah, Mary, go ahead.
Of the dice?
Yeah. Did you ever like it?
I don't think I bought into it. I don't remember having a strong feeling about it. His luck showed up before the memories did. and I know people conflate the two at times, but they're different. They have different sources. But I thought it was endemic, and maybe I could see it being endemic, and Lanfear turned it on by whatever it is that she did. But no, I don't think she was the source, or that the tel'aran'rhiod was the source. But I don't have any strong memories of it. I know we talked about it a lot, but I don't think I came down on his side.
My thought on that had always been that if Lanfear could bestow that upon somebody, she would not have given it to Matt. She would have given it to herself.
Possibly. She wanted Matt to. She did try to sell him on this idea of bringing him glory, and I can see her tying this idea of, "Hey, I did something to you, and now you have it," and then he would look back and trust her. I could see, because she had that whole like, "I can bring you glory, I can bring you wealth," and this idea that his luck brings him glory and wealth actually turns out to be true.
Yeah,
so,
if Matt thinks that she did, that benefits her, but she doesn't have to do anything to make that happen.
I'm going to end this one because it's not 39% is what that ended up with. And go ahead, Innkeeper, if you want to pick our winner of that raffle, go for that, and we'll and you can go ahead and end that one. And then I'm going to look up these. So we have Lanfear duped Perrin was 86%, everyone. So we're about to vote. Stick around here. Which of these theories is the best Lanfear theory of the last 30 plus years? Perrin, Lanfear duped Perrin is one of those at 86%. We have 68% was Lanfear was working with Varen, or the Lanfear pawn, or Varen was a pawn of Lanfear. Varen was a pawn of Lanfear. The next option here is 60%. Lanfear was artificially enhanced. And we'll add that one in there. Lanfear's beauty was artificial. Or Lanfear, I'll just say was artificially enhanced. This word, artificially, is affecting
a lot of
the
letters.
Total character amounts. It's annoying. And the last one here, let's look this up. We had 60%. We had a 46, 51. We had 53. There we go. Lanfear set the time loop trap was the next highest one. So there we go. Which of these theories is the best Lanfear theory of the last 30 plus years? Please vote. Let's find out what it is. So, and then Billy, of those four, Lanfear duped Perrin, Varen was a pawn of Lanfear, Lanfear was artificially enhanced, Lanfear set the time loop trap. Which do you think is the top of those four?
That's tough. Obviously, Lanfear duped Perrin is now canonically correct, even though it's not canonically correct. Varen was a pawn of Lanfear can probably be disproven now, but there was no way to know at the time. Lanfear was artificially enhanced, honestly, is one that I wasn't convinced of until about an hour ago. So that gets really high marks from me. And Lanfear set the time loop trap, I don't think was really that much in question for a long time. So I think I'm going to go with Lanfear was artificially enhanced, because that I feel like I learned something by debating that today. And after 30 years of Wheel of Time, that is a rarity. So I'm going to go with that one. Lanfear was artificially enhanced. That's my vote. I clicked it.
For you, Frenzy, which is your vote?
I just voted, and I voted for Varen being the pawn of Lanfear. And the reason why I voted that as the best theory is because it was not verified. The others I had some level of verification. I think there are enough clues to, it's not the same level of clues like Sylvie or the time loop pointing to it, but I think there's enough strong evidence to support it. And I also think it went where it eventually ended. It went sideways from where it was originally introduced, and it just adds layers of complexity to the story. But whether it's true or not doesn't really impact the story. So. But all four of those, except for the time loop one, I think the time loop one was just an obvious one. The other three are all great theories.
I respect that logic, Mary.
By the way, Summer Brew 2 has won a Dusty Wheel swag. Has won some Dusty Wheel swag. Yeah, congratulations. Make sure, like I think people have told you in chat, just reach out over Discord and Twitter if you'd like. And it looks like we've been doing this. We have 75 votes, which is close to what we were getting. You still have an opportunity to vote on this. We'll give you a minute or two. Billy, thank you very much for coming, man. I'm glad we were able to kind of break some new ground on that one.
Yeah.
I saw those quotes from George's notes, and I'm like, I have to bring this into this. So I'm glad it was like a new thing.
That's really great. Yeah. That's great.
This was a fun one. I wasn't sure how many people would show up on July 4th. We've held a consistent amount of people here all the way to the very end. Thank you, everybody, for staying here and voting. This was a lot of fun. I hope you've enjoyed episode 3 of Lanfear Week. This one was a little bit different, and I love the fact that people are like, I just started reading these books this year. I love going back and hearing about these stories. Yeah, this was a fun one to do. I have a special connection to 2 of these, right? Varen was a pawn of Lanfear is an original theory, and Lanfear duped Perrin. Like, both of those are theories that I wrote, and I struggled to find anyone to believe in them. Now, I did not push Lanfear duped Perrin very hard, as compared to I pushed Varen was a pawn of Lanfear like religiously for a very long time. So this was a lot of fun to see that. I think Lanfear was artificially enhanced. Obviously a great one too. So thank you very much for sticking around and voting on these. It's not close enough that I think we're going to get too many other votes here, but I'll keep it open 38-32%. I just don't think it's going to happen with 82 votes since we kind of maxed out at about 100 votes today. I'll leave it a little bit longer. Penny asked, are we getting a swag? The swag giveaway was just won by Summer Brew 2, but you can. Like I said, when this is over, you can go leave a comment below and talk about your favorite theories, what you thought about today's discussion. If there's something we missed, you can go leave that there too. And I will pick somebody next week from all of these. If you want to go actually comment on each of these, the last 2 we've done and today's episode, I'd be happy to. You still have an opportunity to go leave comments on those 2. So thank you all for being here. I'm going to end this one. Lanfear duped Perrin just actually kind of increased its lead. So Lanfear duped Perrin, the she lives theory. As far as this group of fans is concerned, is the best Lanfear theory of the last 30 years. But I'll also take a second note there. Varen was a pawn of Lanfear is 30% too. So I'll take the fact that I love the fact that you guys appreciate and enjoyed those 2 theories and that I had a personal connection to them. And that is it, everyone. As a reminder, tomorrow, come back. This one's gonna be a lot of fun. I love these Becoming episodes. They're so different from anything else we do. We actually talk about the actors and their work, which is a lot of fun. So we'll be back here normal Wednesday, and hopefully you have a wonderful evening. And as we say around here, good night from the Dusty Wheel, and smash to black.
Welcome to the Dusty Wheel.
Hey, welcome back to the Dusty Wheel.
You went right to kill it. Look at you. You're already. You're just done. I mean, this is like this is
really well. And now I'm like, great, my turn.
And if you don't like that, and you want to say, well, Robert Jordan could have made the 2 rivers all white. He could have, but he didn't. So
Just complimented me on my dress, and as you can clearly see, I'm
sad.
I see Nakomi as something along the lines of a Shadar Haran analog.
It does make sense why it outlasted the breaking.
Yeah.
See, this is why I have Therese in the show, because she's going to correct everything that
Hey everybody, welcome to the Dusty Wheel Show. What? Meme Off Challenge. Yay!
Curved, like baby face mounted on like a huge body. So like all of a sudden,
not just a traditional fantasy, right? There are sci-fi elements.
And just a moment ago, Rafe tweeted something. So let me get my guests in here with me. And
probably, I would say, put in 70, 80% of the work. I got to be over the shoulder and be like, no,